Joining me to kick off today's show is a man that holds a 14-0 record with 8 KOs. He also is number 11 ranked in the IBF in the bantamweight division. That's Michael Angeletti. Michael, appreciate taking time to come on today, man.
Thank you for having me on, man.
Absolutely. Well, first things first, Michael, we have to get into your most recent fight. Dominant performance, 99-91 across the scorecards for all three judges. You are also coming away as the IBF USBA bantamweight title. Take us through just your thoughts now as you've been able to reflect on that fight.
He was a little awkward fighter, but we stuck to the basics, which I have longer than him, faster, have a good jab. So we stuck to the jab and the straight punches because he loves the left hook. So we knew that before the fight going in, and so we was ready for every hook. That's why I never really got hit with any left hooks. To be honest, that was effective.
When we look at that fight week, it was obviously very interesting. Drew Justin Paul was supposed to be the headliner, and obviously he had the weight cut issue. For yourself, obviously you had the same opponent and everything, but does it shift the mindset at all when you realize that, okay, you're not being thrown into the main event, you're now going to be the last guy up? Does that shift the mindset, or how did you kind of go through that portion?
A fight is a fight.
Right.
So I didn't look at it any other way. Whether I was fighting 2 p.m., midnight, 5 p.m., didn't matter. I was ready to fight regardless of what time.
When you look back at the fight, what would you say some of the biggest things you took away from it or learned from it?
Um, I think I did a good job of using my jab, keeping it simple. If they can't get
Definitely.
past the jab, no need to do extra stuff. Keep the jab on them, keep touching, keep going to the body, keep mixing it up and down. So staying consistent with that, that will work in the future with anybody. Just because of my stature, my size, my speed, my athleticness, and so it'll work with anybody. Just stay consistent with that.
There was a difficult portion for yourself as well. A little bit over a week before the process, obviously your grandfather passed away. When that was going through your mind, did that impact you at all leading up in terms of actual performance? Did you ever consider possibly postponing the fight, going at a later date, or how did you handle that from that portion?
I know that he's in a better place. Usually,
Yeah.
people are sad when their loved ones pass away, but he was a pastor. He was a God
Hmm.
fearing man, so I'm not too worried of where he went. We were
Right.
sad, but we shook back quick, and business had to get taken care of. I had a big opportunity in front of me. He wouldn't want me to put the fight off to another time. He would want me to fight. So that's what I did.
I wanted to touch up on your faith a little bit because even your bio, Prov 2410, which reads, if you falter in a time of trouble, how small is your strength? And that is something I wanted to ask you about because as a fellow believer, man, I just want to ask you, what's kind of led you to want to be vocal about your faith and how big has it been to have that relationship with God, even through tough times, just like you just went through?
Major, just like the scriptures say, don't be weak. You come
Mm,
through hard times and adversity. You I gained a spiritual connection with him, with Jesus Christ, a long
right.
time ago because my family just a Christian basically been in the church. My
Mm,
grandparents very spiritual, so like for example, in the summertime when I was young, we couldn't even go outside, so we had to write a scripture and tell my
mm.
parents or my grandmother what it meant before we got outside. We had to write it 21 times in a row, and then go to them and tell them what it means, how it makes you feel, and then we can go play. So I got scriptures and verses in my head from when I was a kid. So
Mm.
those times like that, I hated it, but it shaped me into who I am spiritually. It keeps me strong. It keeps me feeling like Proverbs 24:10. So yeah,
When you look at all the scripture, why is Proverbs 24:10? Why is that the verse that stands out the most to you?
because you go through adversity every single day, you can't let it shake you. Either
Right.
shake or bake. So you gotta keep it pushing because life don't stop.
I also want to follow up on the component you just were talking about and having somebody that you get to kind of be raised by and grow up with that knows the word of God that's going to help put you in position. Like you said, even though at the time when you're younger, you probably did not like it, but it helped you grow you into the man you are today. How critical has that been? Then also have you now taken that and applied that into your life now that you are a father, and that you have that kind of role in your life?
Once I was about 21, I started getting real serious with my faith.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing things I wasn't supposed to. I was in crowds that I wasn't supposed to, and just thankful as a young man, I was able to gain that spiritual connection with God, and He led me away from all the things that I was doing. So it plays a critical role because boxing is just like that to me.
Mm-hmm. What would you say was the turning point in your life? Why did you say all of a sudden, you know what, it's time to give my life fully to God? I want to pursue Him and give Him everything.
I was doing crazy stuff. I was
Okay.
doing stuff that my parents don't know about. if they watch.
Okay.
So I was yeah, man, I was doing crazy. I was wild. My cousins could tell you, but we gonna keep that not on here. But man, I was doing wild things. I was like, I can't keep doing this. Like this is bad. Like so I had God in the back of my head from those times when I was a kid. All the scriptures I'm still remembering, and so I just had to stop doing what I was doing. That's pretty much it.
But the beautiful thing about that story is that's the similar story for so many believers. So many people are going to go down the wrong path. And that's the thing about it, is that everybody has opportunity to go to God still. It's never too late. It's never something you can do that's going to turn you away from Him. So many people listening to this right now, why would you say, okay, if they're in a difficult situation, or they're in a situation that's probably not following according to God's word, why should they turn to God? Why is that the best way of life?
Because you know about the armor of God, right?
Yep.
So you got the armor, the breastplate, the shoes, the belt, the hose.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So even if you don't believe in God, but you read the Bible, it's really good instructions for life. Period.
Yep.
It's just good instructions. It's good.
Absolutely, man. Well, I want to get into your story. I want people to get to know you because, as I said, you're one of the top contenders in the world now. People know that you are a guy, a legitimate world title champion threat now. And I want to get into people getting to know how you become the person that you are today. So if we go all the way back, you're born in New Orleans. You lived there until you're 10 years old. What was it like growing up out there?
The environment was harsh.
Yeah.
The the people just really they move different than other people. Like the city, New Orleans is a city where people just moving. We got a different mentality, and so growing up there with my cousins and what my big cousins was doing, how they was living their life, how they was hustling, how I had friends with my dad, his friends, I hear stories about what he was doing and how he was the truth back in his day. Now my dad has came a long way from that. He got several degrees. He talked to the youth. He's a God-fearing man, and so he came a long way from that. So that's also motivation and inspiration for myself.
I love that. Now, as you talk about that situation, you go there until 10 years old, I believe, and then you move out to Houston, which is where you've obviously been at since. So take us to that aspect then. What led to that move? And then how big of a transition and shell shock was it for you at 10 years old going to an entirely new city then?
So Hurricane Katrina hit.
Right.
So we evacuated to Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia. We stayed in a Red Cross facility for a couple months, and then probably a year before that, in 2005, probably a year before that, 2004, my aunt moved to Texas, and she just told us, come stay with her for a minute. And so, boom, we hit Atlanta and moved to Texas. And
Okay.
my family, they really liked how the school systems was. They liked how everything was, and the environment was different. Like it wasn't New Orleans at all. The people was different, and
Right.
so we decided to stick to Texas. And then with that, going to school, it was hard for me to make friends and do some things, and I was always getting into fights. And so
Right.
we get into fights led me to go to the gym because I wanted to get back in street fight. And
Mm.
so me training for street fights, I eventually got older, got wiser, and then that pretty much stopped. Now I came into confrontations a couple times throughout my life, but it never got too serious because I can hold my own. Most people know that, and then I also had big brothers and big cousins. They all 6 foot plus big dudes, and so anytime I came into some issues, they had my life away.
Well, I have to go back to the Katrina component too, because that's obviously one of the biggest tragedies that we've had in American history. And obviously, you grew up in that. You had experience what that was like. From what you remember, obviously you're still pretty young at that point, but from what you remember, how was that experience, and just what was it like having to deal with one of those situations?
Well, we got out just in time, but
Okay.
I had a lot of family that did get stuck behind, and ultimately they were safe.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, when you talk about going out to Houston, then at what point would you say the turning point was where you said, okay, obviously you're getting some different street fight stuff and stuff like that, but when did you all of a sudden lock and say, you know what, I'm just gonna go all in on boxing. This is what God's created me for. I know I can be great at boxing. When did that reality set in for yourself?
So I was a two sport player mainly. I played basketball. I tried to play soccer, but I was
Right.
mainly doing. I did track also, but I was mainly a football. My first love was football, and then eventually it was boxing. So I was a senior, and I got 2 scholarships for football on
Mm.
on like a Monday. for football. And then that weekend, I had Golden Gloves. And
Mm,
so I told the coaches, let me just wait it out for a bit before I sign. Let's see how this weekend go with the Golden Gloves, and we'll make a decision afterwards. So I prayed about it. I got the Golden Gloves. My first two fights were stoppages, and my third fight was just a unanimous decision. So I was like, you know what? This must be for me because I'm still a small dude.
right.
And all the adversity that I went through with football, being a small dude, having to go through extra loops to show that I'm really a great football player because I was really good. But
Hmm.
I had to do extra just to show the coach that I was really good. And I
Right.
didn't want to have to go through that again, going to college, bigger dudes, So, you know what? I was like, boxing, same weight, your hard work versus my hard work. And I know nobody working harder than me. So
Mm.
that was kind of led me in the boxing direction.
Would you say at that point in time you knew that you would be a person that one day would be ranked a top 15 ranked person in the IBF, a guy that could be a legitimate world title contender? Was that something that you thought? And I know that probably wasn't back in mind saying, that's my dreams. But when did you feel like you could actually accomplish big things in the sport?
Once I played the USA team, I was like, I can
Okay.
go far with this. That's when I knew that I was legit. And then also everything in between those times until me turning pro, like sparring with certain guys, top contenders, and giving them good rounds, getting the best of some guys. That's how I really knew that okay, this is for me. I know I could do this.
Mm.
Then of course my first milestone was going 10-0, and then winning the title. Any time in between that time, and then now I got that. Now next milestone 120-0, get all the belts.
Mm.
So yeah.
Well, let's go through this amateur career. For those that are not familiar with what you accomplished, you were 120 and 10 losses, if I'm not mistaken, at 114 pounds. You're second and first in the elite national champions 2017 and 18. Third in the 2018 Felix Stam tournament in Poland. And also you remember Team USA. When you talk about all the incredible things that you accomplished before you even went and was a professional boxer, how special of an amateur career was that for yourself?
It was very special because nobody in my family was able to even make USA team in anything that we done because of just who we was coming from New Orleans. That wasn't a real thing in our mentality to try to really accomplish. So by me accomplishing just the team USA, that was big in itself. And then on top of that, traveling in those different countries and going to Ireland, Poland, Bulgaria, Germany,
Mhm.
Russia, Great Britain, and sparring and fighting with different guys, that was big in itself right there.
You know what's crazy about that is that for so many people, especially if you do football or basketball, majority, if not all of it's going to be done AAU wise within the state side. You don't really get opportunity to travel around the world. Before you turn 18, even you're a man that's traveling around the entire globe. What was that experience like? Especially like you said, coming from where you came from, knowing that you get to travel the world. What was that portion like?
That was big because I was seeing the world and
All right.
seeing it gave me a better understanding of life and how the cultures move around. I seen like I was in Nicaragua and just to see how they live, they was a little poor, but
Hmm.
everyone was always happy most of the time. They didn't have the biggest houses where I was located. I was still located in Managua, I think it's called.
Okay.
And just to see how those people live and stuff, it made me more grateful for where I live in America.
Right. All right, so you turn pro then. You become a professional. Was that transition for yourself easy? Do you feel like it kind of had a lot of bumps in the road for yourself? Or how was the transition from the amateur ranks to the pro ranks for yourself?
Um, it wasn't a hard transition. My first fight happened really, really fast.
Mhm.
After the fight, I was like, I don't even remember what happened because we just going at. But I was trying to kill him.
Right.
So, and then I think I stopped him in the second round, and it happened really, really fast. After that, because it was COVID right
Okay.
before I
Right.
had my first fight, so I had been off for a long, long time, like a year
Mhm.
and a half since I had fought. So that was different. Also, I was fighting in a bubble, no audience for my first 2 or 3 fights,
Okay.
and so that was different. But the transition was bad. The fighting in a bubble was like a sparring session.
Mm. So would you say more so the transition for yourself then was more so difficult because of all the outside circumstances, whether that be COVID, that be all these different situations, the long layoff? Was that maybe what was probably more difficult than even the transition from a skill standpoint then?
Oh, ask that question again.
Yeah, yeah. So when you look back at that, then would you say more so the issue wasn't even have anything to do with obviously just transitioning from amateur to pro? With more so it's a lot of outside circumstances from like COVID situations, year later. Like that was probably the more difficult component for yourself then.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, yes.
Okay.
COVID was hard to get through. 'Cause I also had my son too during COVID,
Okay.
and then he had COVID at 3 months. So that all that was going on at the time.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Things do start to settle down a little bit, and in 2022, you become prospect of the year for for PBC. You take us to that year when that was pretty much the year when obviously the rest of the world could start learning your name. We realized how special you can be, all the different aspects. What was 2022 like for yourself?
I just need to do my job. Go out there and dominate, knock these low level guys out, and show PPC that um here for real. And so that's exactly what I did. I think I stopped everyone. I think I had 3 or 4 fights that year, and I stopped
Hmm.
everyone. And then, of course, the other prospect, Normal, I think that solidified why I was prospect of the year. Because no other prospects was putting their O on the line that
Right.
early. Me 6-0, him 7-0.
Right. When you talk about the PBC component, obviously your most recent fight was on ProBox TV. Are you still 100% with PBC? You guys still plan on working together on that? Was it just a one-off experience, or what kind of led to those decisions?
Still with PBC.
Okay.
Once PBC get more set dates, then we'll be back. But
Okay.
they dates be all over the place, kind of. And of course, they just got the deal with Amazon Prime, and so they still figuring out things. It's still new, so
Okay. So for yourself, you decided to make the decision, say, you know what, I want to stay active, whatever it takes, whether it's flying on Pro Box TV, whatever it is. Why is that such an important thing for yourself? Because some guys do want to be are a-okay taking a year off, taking long layoffs. Why for you have you said, you know what, I know I need to and I want to stay active?
well, I turned pro at an older age, so I don't really have that
Right.
time like the younger prospects got.
Good point.
And I was telling them it don't matter who I fight, like I'm ready to fight anybody. And because I know I was a little older when I turned pro, I was 24.
Hmm.
And so I mean, if you look at my box rate, you see the type of guys I fought. I ain't taking no weak fights.
Hmm.
And
Another thing I wanted to
I make it look easy though.
Yeah, fair point. One other thing I want to get into about with you is in terms of your weight classes. You obviously have kind of balanced in between 118 and 120 or 122 for yourself. Obviously, right now it feels like you're obviously settling in at 118. Why? What was it about 118? Why do you feel like this is the weight class that you were meant to be fighting at?
Because I'm not old, I'm still young, and I can still make the weight. Why
Right.
not make the most out of the opportunity? It's not a hard weight to make. I have a healthy lifestyle. I mean, you see my fights at 118. I turn it up as the fight goes on.
Hmm.
So why not fight at 118? Then once I accomplish what I want to accomplish, 122, I still got the size for that. My first 7 fights is at 122, so it it won't be a hard transition to go up when it's time.
When we talk about yourself, you are 5'8". Obviously, that would be the size that you could obviously even potentially fight at
That's
126,
old.
possibly. What was that?
That's old.
It is okay.
I'm taller, but we kidding
What?
about me.
Okay, 5'9". Are you already at like 5'9" ish then, or?
Sure.
All right, sounds good. So obviously that's more than puts you in position to possibly fight at 126. Is that something that obviously we're talking the future now, but is that something that you could see yourself even go for three weight class eventually?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I got the
Okay.
size for it.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that
Well,
wouldn't
let's
be a
get into
problem at all.
well, let's get into your future now, man, because we're talking about coming off the situation where your IBF USBA bantamweight title now. And bantamweight's got a lot of changes going on right now, so a lot of openings will start happening probably within once the belt's obviously vacated by June to very shortly. When you talk about what you want next, what do you have plans for that? When do you want to get back in the ring? What do you have plans next for us?
Hopefully, I can get back in August or September. I'm back in the gym, so um, I'm ready. I didn't take no damage in my last fight, so I'm ready to fight. I'm ready for any big name right now.
When you talk about the next year, let's call it even a year and a half, that would put us right about heading into 2027. Where do you see yourself at that point in time? Accomplishments, position you're in, fights, whatever it might be. Where do you see yourself at that point in time?
If people not scared to fight me, I have all the belts.
All
I
right.
could, I'm gonna give anybody, any other Japanese guys problems.
Hmm.
That's who I got the belts right now. So if they keep them over there, I wouldn't mind going over there and go take them.
So you'd be okay fighting in Japan then?
Of course,
All right. Is
as
this
long
something
as
you've had?
everything's fair. Of course.
Is there something you've had discussions yet? Have you had any discussion about possibly going out to Japan and fighting anytime soon?
I talk to my team about it. They're
Okay.
down with it. As
All
long as
right.
money makes sense, the fight makes sense, we with it.
When you look at everybody on the table right now, is this something that you want? I mean, obviously, I'm sure that answer would probably be something like Junto, but if Junto's obviously is moving on, which I think will be officialized in the next couple of weeks, is there somebody, one of the top other contenders that you would want to go out there and fight?
Man, they got some hard names, but
Fair enough.
I can't even tell you. I don't even want to pronounce their name and be disrespectful, but yeah, I think the top guys are Japanese. So
Mhm.
those guys.
All right. It's perfect, man. Well, another guy that has come back into the radar, Gary Russell. Obviously, he's decided to return back now. And when you talk about 118, there's not a lot of American depth there. So that's one of your biggest options for a domestic type of fight, if you want to call it that. Is that something on your radar? Would you entertain or want that fight?
100%.
All right. What do you see as a more realistic thing? Could we see that fight happening next or in the near future? Or could we see it going out there and fighting Japan more accurately?
Whatever opportunity makes the most sense.
Okay.
We're
Perfect.
good with my team, and they handle all backdoor business. So as long as it makes sense, I like it. I'm with it. I'm with all the smoke. Anybody, I don't care. He can get it too. We
All
talked
right.
about him before, multiple times. I'd
I
be
love
asking for him.
if that fight gets made, you, Gary Russell, domestic fight at 118, something that we don't have a lot of obviously at the 118 division in America. How does that fight go down?
I'm gonna stop.
All right. I love it.
Period.
Couple things to be thinking before I let you go, Michael. Is one of the things I want to also ask you about is talking about the junto obviously vacating most likely. When you talk about that and you have somebody that was obviously have two of the belts and somebody vacates and moves on, what does that do for the weight class? How much more open does that make it? And does that make you even a little bit more excited knowing that there are a lot more opportunities now on the table?
Um, Absolutely, because I know I just got the talent that I got that'll put me in a lineup.
Right.
So it's very exciting to be able to possibly fight for that real soon. Whether or not he moves up or don't, I'll
Right.
fight him too. So
There also is rumors that Bam Rodriguez, who would be another domestic possible fight, could be moving up. Obviously, that's probably not going to be until mid next year. I'd have to imagine, maybe in late spring. Is that another fight that you would want to make happen?
I fight anybody.
All right. I
It
love
does
it.
not matter.
Well, I also want to ask about something outside about boxing, and that is that you are a real estate agent as well. You've been doing that for quite some time now. Can you take us through that? Why'd you want to get into that industry?
I got a mentor. We call him Jay. He
Okay.
was. I saw the way he was moving, the way he
Mm,
was living his life. It was real flashy, but humble at the same time. And I was like, man, what you do? And he a broker. And so
mm,
he was like, you know what? I like just come to my office, let's talk about. And so we started talking, and that pretty much got me into real estate. And now I do real estate. Um, it's definitely my plan after boxing. I still do it now,
right.
but boxing, of course, is number one. That comes first.
That was my follow up question then. So obviously, you already kind of said that when the day does come, you're done boxing, then you have your next step, the next career path will be full on real estate then?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right.
Come
Love it.
start with the champ.
Absolutely, man. Well, Michael, I've got one final question for you. It's the question I like wrapping up every interview with, and that's talking about your legacy. Obviously, we just talked about one day you will put down the gloves, and when that day does happen, what do you want to be remembered for what you've accomplished both inside and outside of that ring?
God man who wasn't scared of nobody, who was a great
Mm,
fighter.
I love it. Well, Michael, appreciate you taking time to come on today, man. It's been a blessing and honor having you on here. I cannot wait to see what God's got next for you, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Of course, you always welcome on, man. God bless.